Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. Please visit our website, cscatlanta.org, for a complete list of live and recorded events. We invite you to sign up for our newsletter to stay connected to all future programs.
All right, so welcome and thank you for joining me today. I see some familiar faces and some new faces, and hello to everyone online at home. Today we are going to make two different types of lettuce wraps. These are ideal for a lot of situations. Number one, they're well suited to pre-chopped and pre-cooked ingredients, so they can be really easy to just throw together. Today we're going to be making the chicken one with rotisserie chicken and the shrimp one with pre-cooked shrimp. They're also great for this season of the year when it is too hot to turn your oven on, or even the stove top sometimes, right? So we're not touching the stove today at all, so nothing's going to get hot and steamy in here. It's all going to be nice and crisp and vibrant and fresh. So Lauren actually asked me to make lettuce wraps, and she wanted to do something with rotisserie chicken, like ways to use leftover rotisserie chicken, which I thought was a great idea. Lettuce wraps are a great use for that. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, just like so many things, this can go in a lot of different directions, right? So lettuce wraps as we know them today in America come from a Thai and Vietnamese Southeast Asian tradition, right? A lot of times they're made with ground pork or ground chicken. And so it's going to draw from those sort of similar flavors. And when I was thinking about this recipe, I remembered a dietetic intern that I had working with me this past year who did a cooking demonstration with this recipe. And I texted her and said, hey, can I use your recipe? I will give you credit for it. So Tiffany Vo, this is a recipe that she makes with her mom. She is Vietnamese. And it was so great. It was very popular. We served it in the hospital cafe. The cooking demo was really great as well. And so I'm excited to share that Tiffany's recipe with you today. So what we're going to do is start in both of these situations where we're seasoning our proteins and our vegetables. I like to do this a lot of times anyway, unless I'm making enough of the dressing that I'm going to save it for something else. I like to just do the dressing first in the bowl, and then it's already in there, and we can just get our hands or our tongs or whatever in there. So we're going to start with the dressing. This dressing calls for 1 1/8 teaspoon. That's very precise. I don't tend to get that precise, but because I was sharing the recipe as it was. So 1/8 of a teaspoon, if you can see this right here, is half of that, right? So is it going to make that much of a difference? Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. But anyway, so we're just going to start with a little bit of fish sauce and a little bit of sugar. And then fresh lime juice. So again, you guys have been here. For those of you who've been here enough, you know Chef Mike and I are fast and loose with actual measurements. We eyeball it and then taste, right? If you are the type of person who wants to precisely measure everything, no shame. If that is what gives you confidence and that's how you want to do it, go for it. The thing to remember is that even if you precisely measure, unless you know that recipe already, it may not be exactly the way you like it. So you may end up having to adjust it anyway, and that's okay. So I definitely advocate for sort of tasting and adjusting along the way, and that is certainly not a failure. So squeeze in some lime juice in here. How many of you guys have cooked with fish sauce before? Only a couple of people, maybe a third. Cool. All right, so it is a really often used condiment in Southeast Asian cooking. It is a condiment made out of fermented anchovies. It smells pretty funky. If you stick your nose right in the bottle, it's like, ooh, I don't know about that. You want me to eat that? But it really plays nicely as in this sort of symphony of flavors that you're going to find in Southeast Asian recipes. So it's fairly salty. And it is also tangy. So it does some of the same things that soy sauce does in a recipe, but then it's also got the acidic component to it, which makes it really, really nice. And then we're going to add just a little bit of water. And that's just going to sort of, tone it down a touch so it's not so overpowering. And then if you want to do some chili flakes or if you want to do some spicy pepper in here, I will also say that the choice of ingredients that we've chosen in here is, again, what we've chosen. This is a great way to use up odds and ends if you've got a little, end of a carrot or something. Or if you want to go buy pre-shredded cabbage and mix, that's fine as well. This is going to work really nicely. All right, so we're going to put that aside. I'm stirring it up just a little bit to let that sugar dissolve.
Where do you get your fish at?
This one came from Whole Foods. I've seen it at Publix.
Yes.
Frustratingly, my Publix did not have it last night, which is why I was at Whole Foods because it's on the way here. DeKalb Farmers Market. Oh, the brand that you'll see a lot, I saw the bottle in here. This is a lot of fish sauce. It's going to last you a long time, but it doesn't really, it's already been fermented. Let's see. I can't read the code on their sell by date. So anyway, it lasts a fair amount of time in your refrigerator. That's a lot, but you can find it in these. This Red Boat is another brand. But if you really get into it, get the big bottle.
Somebody gave us Szechuan peppercorns. Would that be a good place to put them?
Yeah. Okay, so Szechuan peppercorns, it was the question. Absolutely. So the thing, if you've never tried Szechuan peppercorns, they have this like astringent, almost like tingly sort of quality to them, which if you're not used to can be a lot, but I would start with a little, and yeah, that would be a fun, interesting pop in here. I have someone close to me who makes a chili oil that he uses as a condiment for a lot of things, and Szechuan peppercorns is a very key ingredient. But it's astringent doesn't sound appetizing, but it does have a bit of that quality. But what's great about these recipes, right, is, and I think that Southeast Asian food does particularly well, right, is they balance all of the flavors and they've got a little bit of everything, right? So you've got your spicy and your sweet and your salty and your savory umami, and you've got a variety of textures and you've got a variety of sometimes mixing hot and cold. You've got some soft stuff, you've got some crunch, and so adding that element in there that doesn't quite fit into the other. We don't have a taste bud taste for tingly, but that's what Szechuan peppercorn kind of does. It's got a tingly quality. All right, so now that we've got our dressing made, it is really just a matter of combining your other ingredients. So I've taken rotisserie chicken. I didn't pay too much attention to, I used a mixture of dark meat and light meat here because it's what you've got left over. In my house, the dark meat gets eaten first when the rotisserie chicken is fresh, and then the light meat is what's left over. And again, size-wise, I've chopped this up so that it's sort of long bite size. You'll see that the other ingredients that I've got are all sort of matchstick. So I wanted my chicken to be in sort of long. If you want to chop it up into cubes, this is your world. You get to do it however you want. So yeah, we're just going to dump this right in here, our rotisserie chicken. We're going to add the cabbage. So I bought a whole head of cabbage, and I used the mandolin. That is a fast, quick way if you want a really thin slice, and if you just really like living on the edge in the kitchen, right? Some people, mandolins can be dangerous if they're not sharp. This is the one that I use. Of course, I meant to bring the little handheld mechanism that keeps you from chopping your fingers off, and of course I left it at home. So it's gonna be an adventure today. So yeah, I sliced up the cabbage with this. I'll demonstrate the mandolin in just a minute with the carrot and the radish. Taking a knife to cabbage does not take very long. It's already got layers in it that are pretty easy to chop very thin. So every time I'm adding this in, I'm just gonna give it a little, adding something new, I'm just gonna give it a little toss so that we make sure that everything gets that good, tasty flavor on it. All right, so then we've got some cucumber. It calls for English cucumber. I like those a lot. They have a sort of milder, more delicate flavor, not so cucumbery that sometimes with some people can give you some reflux or stay with you for a long time. This is actually a Persian cucumber. I'm gonna use it down in the shrimp recipe, but I'll give you a preview, right? What's so nice about chopping these is it's just so easy to chop precisely and perfectly. Like it's a very satisfying chop. So we'll do that in just a little bit. And again, we're gonna toss every time. The salt that's in that fish sauce is gonna draw some of the moisture out of our vegetables as well, and they'll start to contribute to the dressing and impart their own little bit of flavor. All right, red bell pepper, just thinly sliced, sweet bell pepper. You could get spicy peppers in here if you want. You could get jalapeno in here if you're into that. So tossing and tossing. All right, let's do our radish. So with this radish, I am going to use the mandolin. So the mandolin, if we use it just like this, is just going to give me a straight slice, right? So if I'm just cutting the bottom off of it, it's got a little handle here, straight, thin slice. But if you want it to be more of a matchstick quality, they come with these little toothy blades. And so on the back of it, you've got these screws. And you just loosen the screws a little bit and drop that blade in there and tighten them up a little bit. And now, I'm actually going to do it right over the bowl. Okay, so now you can see it's giving me a slice, but then it's also going to give you these tiny little perfect matchsticks, which who can cut something that precisely that fast? Yeah.
What if you want to cut it into diced pieces? Is that a bad idea?
You can cut it into diced pieces, but a mandolin's not going to do that for you. Oh, you mean this? Yeah, if you want to chop it all up. Yeah, go for it. And if you're using ground chicken, that might even give you a better experience just because then everything's more similar. In here with the rotisserie chicken, it's already in longer strips, so we're sort of giving it more of a long matchstick. But yeah, if you want to chop everything up into a dice, go for it. Yeah.
T&J, so
Oh, easier to chew. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, and there's even different, I don't think I brought both of them. There's thicker, this is actually the middle level blade. You can get an even thinner blade, so it's like angel's eyelash, right? Doesn't that sound like it's something easy to chew? So yeah, when I'm using a mandolin, if I do not have the blade, I know that I am going to sacrifice a certain amount of yield in service of my fingers remaining intact. So, I'll start picking it up if it starts to get too close to the edge and just like give it a couple of turns, that sort of thing.
If you have the thingy, that thing just sticks into the...
Yeah. It's got little teeth and it just like pokes into it and then you hold that thing back and forth. You can take the blade off of this and sharpen it as well, which I recommend if it feels like it's getting dull. And then same thing with the carrot, right? We're just gonna go down. And again, to your point, this is gonna make slices that are as long as the direction that you're pointing it, right? So if I go this way, I'm gonna get a really long carrots, slice like this, right? Let's see, there we go, like those. But if I point it this way, I'm gonna get short ones. So you can still. If you also wanted to throw everything in a food processor and pulse it because you don't have the energy or wherewithal to sit and chop all these vegetables, go for it. Or some food processors have that little shreddy blade, right? Or with the carrot, another option would be a box grater, which I'm, of course, not going to put my hands on right away right now. Aha. we don't have a box grater here, but we have this one, right, handle style. So that's going to give you a similar choppy sort of quality, right? You can do this with a radish too. I didn't save enough radish, but same thing, right? You got options is what I'm telling you. This one gets a little wild and like confetti party over here. But yeah, basically you're just trying to get some chopped up, shredded up vegetables that can be your filling. We're going to give it another toss. All right. All right. So the recipe on there also, okay, we'll get to the herbs first and then I will talk about other things. This goes here. So I have chosen 3 different herbs here. Any fresh green soft herbs that you like are great. Mint, cilantro, and basil is what I have here for you today. When I'm chopping up mint and basil, I like to lay the leaves, mint in particular, I mean basil in particular, but mint too sometimes, can be a little sensitive to bruising or susceptible to bruising. And so if you just take your knife to it and just like, you're gonna end up with probably some brown or black leaves of some of them. So to prevent that, sort of like getting a nice ribbon can be achieved if you take everything and put them in a little stack and roll them up and then cut them across. Does anybody know the name of this cut? Chiffonade, yes. You guys have all heard the story of the mean chef who taught me that word. That's right. So I worked at a restaurant, and there was a menu test at this restaurant, and this chef had a very high opinion of himself. And I was just a kid in college who was waiting tables, and he like quizzed me before like the test had come out about what chiffonade was, and like he just kept like quizzing me, and I was like, "You have a degree from the Culinary Institute of America. I hope you know more than me." Right? I'm a kid in college. But of course I got 100 on his test because you're not gonna best me, sir. It's funny, I cannot remember his name. It's not that important, but I can't not think of him when I think of the word chiffonade.
What knife is that?
This knife is a M-I-S-E-N, Misen. It's a nice, affordable knife. It was actually a Christmas gift for me this year. Also, if you're thinking about gifting a knife to someone, they offer an engraving service. It's got a little message on the side there. Cute. Oh, there's one mint leaf hidden down in there. And then cilantro, it is not so sensitive to the oxidation. So if you want to pick off all the cilantro leaves so you don't have any stem there, you can. If you want to just like bunch it all up and go to town, I find that to be the fastest and easiest way. And then at the end, everything's going kind of crazy here. But if you get some, if I have one long stem in there like that, I'll chuck it out. But a few other chopped up stems, just fine. So we'll throw this in here. All right, so when Tiffany, just to do her justice, made this recipe, she made fried onions or shallots to go with it, and I think that's a great recommendation. Today, we're just gonna add some green onions for that onion quality to it, but if you also just wanted to go buy fried onions like you put on top of your green bean casserole, it would be delicious. So I advocate for that option as well.
Restaurant that we go to, they make something called nem chuck, which is really heavy with garlic.
Yeah, so that sauce is, the base of it is fish sauce. And then it's got garlic and usually some chilies in it as well. And it's often used as the sort of dressing basis for this. So just like I like to say, even if you're following the recipe exactly, you want to give it a taste just to be sure it's where we like it. And then adjust. So we'll try to get a taste on here that has a little bit of everything. I think it could use just a touch more fish sauce, just a touch. I'm gonna give it a little drizzle. And then I think we're good. I'm gonna throw it on a bowl or in a leaf. All right.
Did you put the chili flakes in there?
I did not put the chili flakes in there. Thank you for asking about that. I certainly can, or we can put them on the side. Are people into spicy-ish things or not so much? I feel like in a mixed crowd, I tend to hold. I have one child who's very into spicy things and one child who thinks black pepper is too much. So I tend to err on the side of like add it after for the folks in my household.
Well, thank that child for me.
All right. So let's talk about greens options. For you guys here today, I thought we would share sort of two different options. One that I like a lot is butter or bib lettuce that comes in these little packages with the root ball attached. A couple of reasons I like these. One is that they stay fresh for a long time, so you're less likely to have that phenomenon where you aspirationally buy the greens and then you find soup in the bottom of your, vegetable crisper. We've all had it happen before. So this is going to buy you a little bit more time. And then I think you're going to just sort of see, and I bet we'll have a mixture in the group here today, the sort of like different qualities, right? Cabbage has got a little bit, it's sturdier, it's going to hold better to the wrap, right? But it's more of a heavy lift on the chewing and the crunching side. And the bib lettuce is just a little bit more delicate. So bib or butter lettuce is great. Romaine hearts would be another great option. But yeah, you're just going to take a little bit of it and like put it in there. And actually, if you're serving these, I would probably serve your lettuce on the side and have people assemble themselves as they go. And then you wrap it all up and it's going to fall apart at some point, and that's okay. We're all going to be friendly with each other here, right? It's we're not going to worry too much about what Emily Post would say about this. She'd probably recommend a knife and a fork. Forget that, Emily Post. All right, so we're going to put the shrimp in this one when we're ready for that. In the meantime, I'm going to stick this in the fridge. All right. Now down here in my other kitchen, we're going to switch over to our shrimp. Okay. So really similar principles here. What I thought was fun about giving two different versions is just to give you the experience of what the different textures, what the different options are. Tofu would be another great direction. You could take it totally vegetarian if you want. You could chop up some boiled egg or make a little omelet and roll that and chop that up and just put it with vegetables. The sky's the limit here. But I did like this combination of the flavor profile with the shrimp and mango. So same principle here. We're going to start with our dressing and squeeze our lime. In terms of, and it says it on there, how much juice you get out of limes. Obviously, it's variable. Different limes are different sizes. On average, you're going to get about 2 tablespoons from your average lime. If you feel like you don't want to get out your measuring spoon and try to hold it underneath your bowl while I find that irritating, so I just don't bother. I just wing it and adjust. Unless maybe there's some like cakes that have citrus juice in it. Like baking is a whole different thing. If I was baking, I would definitely measure out, because different amounts of liquid in baking, of course, can yield a very different result. So this one, instead of fish sauce, and in both of these, you've got the option of fish sauce or soy sauce. I'm going to do soy sauce again just to have the contrast of flavors. And it's just calling for about a teaspoon. Uh-huh.
I started using tamari.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a bit okay to use?
Absolutely. So tamari in recipes is really going to be entirely interchangeable with soy sauce. It is soy sauce. It's just made a little bit differently. So regular soy sauce does have wheat in it a lot of times. And so tamari is a great option if you need to be gluten-free. You may, whether you do or not, it's delicious. I don't know all of the sort of details about the differences of the way it's brewed, but
I like the fuller flavor.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, totally interchangeable soy sauce now, and tamari. Now, you'll see between these two, soy sauce and fish sauce, in terms of the volumes, are going to be interchangeable, but they do have different flavors, right? If you go with the fish sauce, it's going to be a tangier result versus the soy sauce, which is really just imparting more saltiness and umami. So you get to choose your own adventure. All right, instead of sugar, we're going to do a little bit of honey, just a teaspoon again. And then we'll just, again, give this a head start on dissolving. All right, so our shrimp. I just bought pre-cooked shrimp for this purpose, in part to say, hey, if you're just not feeling like the work of shrimp, don't feel bad. Buy it already cooked. I do for this, I like to chop it into some bite-sized bits. You could leave them whole if you want to leave them whole. Usually I'll stack a couple of them so that it can go a little faster. If you are starting with shrimp that needs some level of attention, whether it's peeling or cooking it all together, you've got a lot of different options. You can just throw them in a pan and give them a saute for a couple of minutes. You don't even need to really worry about adding fat to the pan. They have a lot of water in them. By the time they turn pink, you're good. Once they've turned pink all over, you could blanch them in some boiling water is an option. I think that's the note that I put in there. I would recommend, if you go that method, or really either method for this, giving them a little dip in an ice water bath is just going to stop the cooking. They're a little bit like eggs, where they've got some carryover heat that will continue cooking. And shrimp is susceptible to overcooking pretty easily. If you've ever had overcooked shrimp, it's kind of like eating some chewing gum. It can just be really chewy and tough, and we don't want that. All right, so this has also got mango. You can go with totally fresh mango, and you can chop up your mangoes. Because I was cooking for close to 30 people, I went with frozen mango. This is the size that I find a lot of frozen mango comes in. Again, you can just chuck that in there as is, or if you want it to be a little bit more uniform, we can give it a chop. As you'll see in the ones that you got, because I was chopping 6 bags, I just put them all in a pile and sort of went in this direction rather than.
Is good? Is fresh?
In this application, yes. For sure. I think, I don't know. I mean, sometimes there's like nothing like a really like perfectly ripe, fresh mango, but they are a little bit more work to cut up for the amount that you get. That same kid that thinks pepper is too spicy will also eat any fruit. And the first time she had mango, my best friend was in town visiting us at a beach house, and she had gotten some mangoes and cut them up, and my kids were like in her lap eating all, and finally she was being like sweet with them, and then finally she's like, hold up, right? I would like some of this. All right, same thing. We're just gonna give it all a little toss. And then in this application, you'll see that the ingredients are saying chopped instead of matchstick, and that's just gonna give everything, again, a more uniform experience. So if I'm chopping bell peppers or even matchsticking bell peppers, I didn't save the whole one, but if you cut the core out of it and then sort of cut a slice in it and lay it flat, that's gonna give you a flat, easy surface to work from. And then it goes much faster to do a lot all at once. So there we go. Like I said earlier, are there people in here, show of hands, who just find chopping vegetables meditative? Some people do. All right, and then there's a lot of people who just find it completely onerous. Just like, ugh, no, somebody else do this. If you find it completely onerous, buy chopped vegetables or make friends with someone who likes chopping vegetables. Like, that's okay. I will say, I'm somewhere in the middle, I guess, but I will say last night when I was prepping up these cucumbers, I was like, oh, it just has a really nice feel to it. And then when I was making the matchsticks, you could just like get a perfectly thin slice. And I was like, oh, it's probably a little weird that I'm just like, I don't know. I found the sensory satisfaction just very lovely on this cucumber. It was like no resistance, like just enough resistance.
I've never had a Persian. What does it taste like?
It's similar to an English cucumber. Yeah. But a little easier to work with. I mean, if I had an English cucumber that was this long, I would just chop it into Persian cucumber-sized chunks to work with it. All right. So same situation with our fresh herbs. What was the question? Same similar situation. And in fact, here to save time, we're going to double up and do our basil and our mint all at one time. I imagine that the people who don't like chopping vegetables find it therapeutic to watch somebody else chop vegetables. Is that true? You're like, whoo, better than me. All right, so we'll get everything in our little roll here. All right, so again, this one, roasted peanuts. Again, this is optional. You could go cashews. You could leave them out. Do we have any peanut allergies here? No? Great. So I'm just going to go with the peanuts because I think it adds a nice crunch. And then red chili. So what I'm going to do with this one, I'm going to slice up some red chili just in like little, happens to be a Fresno chili. I'm going to open it up so that we can get the super hot bits out. The hottest part is the seeds, but also this membrane in here is where the capsaicin is most concentrated. It's also, fun fact, where the most vitamin C is concentrated. So don't cut it out of your bell peppers. And then I'm gonna just give us some slices of this and leave it on the side for folks so you can decide. All right, so same thing. You're just gonna pile it in. Is there another question? All right, so there's our two little wraps. All right, last thing we're going to talk about is our strawberry clusters. So these are a little bit tricky, and in the end, they're not tricky. I shouldn't say that. What's tricky about them is that this is not television. You guys are here in real life, and there's several freezing steps along the way. So I will show you the different sort of steps and the ways to go. But mostly I'm just going to show you the finished product. Okay. So this is so super easy. But I realized I can't show you the chocolate step because I used up all the chocolate last night, making them so that they would all be frozen. Literally all we did here was take Greek yogurt. If you use regular yogurt, you can too. Greek yogurt is just going to be thicker to work with. Of course, Greek yogurt is just regular yogurt with some of the whey strained out of it. Now, when I put my dietitian hat on, one of the things I like about Greek yogurt is that it's got a higher protein content just because everything's concentrated. I don't like it in every application from a culinary standpoint, but here it works really well. So Greek yogurt, you can use plain and sweeten it to your own preference, or you can just start with already flavored sweetened yogurt and eliminate a step. And then we're just going to stir in chopped strawberries. That's it. And then I took a quarter of a cup scoop, and I did sort of a scant half scoop and just put it on a sheet pan, parchment paper or foil if you don't have it. Stuck it in the freezer, right? And that's where you get to this level, right? You've got these. If you just want to eat those like that, go for it. That's a tasty snack right there, right? And it's cold. Certainly one of the things that we find both from my own experience caring for my mother when she was in treatment and with our patients at the hospital is that cold things and sweet things tend to be easier to tolerate, especially if you're getting some of those metallic flavors in your mouth. Or you've got mouth sores, cold things can be easier. One thing that I find with these a little bit is when they first come out of the freezer, if you're having a hard time chewing, you might want to give them a 5 or 10 minute chill or rest, not chill, hang out on the counter to unchill, and they'll just soften up, right? So you could leave them at that step, or if you want to get fancier, you can add chocolate. So just plain chocolate chips, all right? The method I found that was the easiest, you can certainly melt chocolate chips in the microwave. If you do that, you want to go 30-second intervals, stir. 30-second intervals, stir. I think that's the method that's on there. And if you're making a small amount, you're going to get all the way through just fine. If you're making 30 or 40 of them like I was last night, I'm going to recommend the double boiler. You don't have to have a double boiler. You can make a double boiler by taking a pot of water, filling it with a couple of inches of water, putting your metal or glass mixing bowl on top of it, putting your chocolate chips in there, and melting it that way. That's going to help it stay melted the whole time to make it all the way through all of your dipping. Now, in terms of I even tried a couple of different methods of the dipping. The one I found the best was to take a fork or an offset spatula, hold it over your double boiler, and just spoon your chocolate and let it just drip off, right? And then you end up with this, with this, right? They're going to go back in the freezer, right? Although you'll start to see that the chocolate will start to solidify fairly fast, but also the yogurt will start to melt, right? Because we're putting together hot and cold things. And that's it. That's it. And then you can make a bigger batch in advance, let them hang out in the freezer. You got a little snack whenever you're ready. Whatever you find and is good. Yeah. In fact, these are, right. Yeah. I mean, I get them from all different places. I mean, I know Ghirardelli, people like a lot of those. If you are thinking more in terms of, you know, the fair trade or Rainforest Alliance qualities of your chocolate from a sustainability standpoint, that might be a factor that you're thinking about, which is the, you know, the longer, broader global impacts of chocolate. And so then if you're looking for any brand that has those certifications, Rainforest Alliance or fair trade, those don't have so much to do exactly with the quality of the chocolate, but you tend to see that they're aligned. If I'm to this chocolate right here was the store brand from Aldi, because that's where I was. If you happen to be at Aldi this week, these strawberries were $2.89 a quart. So, and they're organic strawberries, $2.89 a quart. I was amazed. I've gotten to the point now where there's, of course, not one store I can buy everything. I'm like a little bit, I wish that I could get everything, but I also realize these are first world problems, that I can't get all of the exact things I want. So I sometimes, I live close to your DeKalb Farmers Market, so that's where I shop a lot. I know. But I also shop at Publix, and I also shop at Aldi. And if I'm at that side of town, on the way in here, I stop. There's a Whole Foods on the way. So the shrimp came from Whole Foods. That was a long way to answer your chocolate question.
I'm sorry to ask so many questions.
No, please, that's the whole point. Let's learn. So I am not an oncology dietitian. I've spent my whole career as a food service dietitian, so I am not going to make broad definitive statements. I'm going to stay in my lane because I don't practice as a clinician. But I would say cooking to temperature, right? The USDA guidelines for cooking things to the correct temperature, I would get a thermometer and cook, you know, especially while you're in active treatment, that's when you can be the most vulnerable from an immune system standpoint. So making sure that you are cooking things to the right temperature. Now, you know, oysters can, you know, be a tricky situation for some folks. We definitely have it's not the same oyster environment that we grew up with where it was like, don't eat the oysters in the months that have Y. Is that how it goes? R. See, don't listen to me. I grew up with, you know, refrigeration and modern sanitation standards. But I do think that that's where some of that comes from. I've also seen an evolution, and again, this is just from my food service perspective in a healthcare environment of even, at one point in time, we had oncology protocol where we didn't let cancer patients eat fresh fruits or vegetables. Everything had to be cooked, and that was from an infection control standpoint. And finally, in my facility at least, the clinicians were able to advocate that there's not enough evidence that that precaution outweighs the nutrition impact of being able to eat fresh fruits and vegetables while you're in active treatment. So I would say follow the recommendation of your provider. Yeah. Because the other thing I will say is that some things and some protocols for some treatments and some types of cancer can be different than for other ones. And we care sometimes about, we care about infection control for everybody. So like the standard sort of precautions from the Department of Health and the USDA do matter. But I do think for some folks where your immune system is extra, extra, extra sensitive, whereas for everybody else, it's just extra sensitive. Does that make sense? Okay. We'll start plating things up and you guys can have some lunch. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for joining Cancer Support Community Atlanta for this program. If you're interested in other live or recorded programs, please visit the online program tab of our website, cscatlanta.org, or follow us on Facebook. We'll be sharing additional information on upcoming programs.